Okay, so here's what I'm thinking. It probably depends on your calculator exactly how you type it in. On this calculator, um, it typed in pretty easily. I'm going to go through. I don't know if you can see this really crisply. Let me see if I can make this closer. Oh no, I'm just making a mess, right? Okay, no, that does not help. Well, let's see if that helps. So when I type in pi, mine's a second function. No, that's not helping. Start over. Okay. Well, maybe you can zoom in and see that. I'm hoping that's clear enough. But I've got the pi button. It's second function. I think it is for a lot of calculators, but mine's over my up arrow. And if you have another brand of calculator, I think it'll pretty much be the same. This one has a few more features on it than some, but it should be similar. But you do need to use your pi button instead of 3.14. It comes out a little bit off on the decimals. And then whether you hit this times sign or not, I don't know. It depends on your calculator, so I try it both ways. But it didn't hurt for mine to go ahead and say times, and then 16 squared. You can use, I have a squared button, but then I also have an up arrow to the second. Either one works. And you can put it in parentheses, but it looks like I didn't really have to there. So 16 was my radius on my example. Then the plus sign, so I do plus, then find your pi again, pi, and then times 16. I really could have used a parenthesis or just say times 16 there. It was kind of up to you. Now, I think this is what you really want to ask me about. To get the square root, again, it depends on your calculator. On my calculator, I was able to hit second function, get the square root symbol up, and then do 16 squared plus 9 squared, and just boom, it just answered it. But I do know on some calculators, to do this part, you have to type in the 16 squared first, plus 9 squared, kind of get that answer. And then a lot of calculators, then you hit square root. You kind of hit the square root button after. You have to type that in first, then hit square root. If your calculator is like that, which I'm thinking maybe is why you had the question, you would probably do this first. I would recommend you hit 16. My example was radius of 16 and height of 9, by the way, so you may have different numbers. But your radius squared plus your height squared, boom, hit that out. That's 337 for my example. Then hit your square root button. A lot of calculators, you hit the square root after the calculation. Get that number. So in my case, let's see, square root of 16 squared plus 9 squared equals, see, it equals a long decimal. So if you have to write that down, just keep as many digits as possible, because be round off error, or try to keep it saved in your calculator even. But you'll get that calculation first, then I would times that by 16, then times it by the pi button, maybe do all of that calculation since you've got, that's kind of a set of its own, plus that 922.7515976. Keep as many as you can. Then I'm going to add that to this calculation, which would be 16 squared times pi. You can type it in right like it is actually. So then I could say plus pi button times 16 squared equals, and it still works out that way. Notice on mine it was 1726.999317. So it was round to the nearest hundredths place. Hundredths place is this second after the decimal. That's the 9 for hundredths place. So the 9 after it actually rounded that up to a 10. So it wound up kind of carrying over the 1. So that made that a 10. Then that carried over, made 1727.00, actually rounded to hundredths place. Anyway, I hope that helps. If we need to look at your calculator specifically, we can zoom that and maybe, but let me know if that helps you out.